This lesson will briefly describe how to determine coverage of data. There are 8 potential base data to determine coverage or actual fishing activity. From a Toughman perspective, 3 of these are internally sourced: annual fishing trip and port visit log, log sheet data, and unloadings data. We will discuss these in this lesson. The other 5 are externally sourced: Port Authority departure and entry information, boat census information, field staff monitoring, fishing company records, and VMS data. For more in-depth information on all of the potential base data, refer to Working Paper 1 from the Tuna Data Workshop 2, which can be accessed via the SPC website. First, let's look at the annual fishing trip and port visit log. This is the best source of data to use, as the data collection form has been specifically designed to determine coverage. It covers all periods of activity and inactivity, and the value obtained to determine vessel coverage is vessel trips. You should check that all licensed vessels have completed the forms for a calendar year and that there are no gaps in the periods of activity or inactivity. The sum of all trips from all vessels is the actual fishing activity and is used to determine coverage of all other types of data. Log sheet data. Generally, log sheet data are used to determine annual catch estimates, but not usually coverage. They can provide patterns of monthly fishing activity. Log sheet trips reconciled with unloadings can provide an indication of activity. The value obtained to determine coverage can be trips, catch, sea days, or fishing days. You should check that all licensed vessels have provided at least one log sheet for the calendar year. Check whether the coverage of log sheet data for each vessel has been consistent throughout the year. Toughman Data Quality Report number 5 provides a list of annual vessel activity by month for each vessel in a fleet based on the log sheet data. Here we see an example of this report exported into Excel and annotated. Each line on the report contains a vessel's catch and its monthly activity according to days reported on the log sheets provided and processed. In this example, the person responsible for data quality has analysed the data for each vessel and has highlighted certain months according to the following criteria. The green highlight means that the vessel was considered to be inactive for these months. In this case, some annotations have been made on the worksheet to indicate why that vessel was genuinely inactive during these months. The pink highlight indicates that a log sheet does exist but has not yet been entered. The yellow highlight indicates months where it is considered that fishing has occurred, since there is no information to consider otherwise, but the log sheets have not been provided. No highlight indicates months where it is assumed with this method that log sheets have been provided. Once the 4 categories above have been determined, we can create 2 new columns on the right labelled Logs and Fishing. For each vessel in the fleet, the Logs cell contains a count of the number of months where log sheets have been provided and processed, and the Fishing column contains a count of the number of months where fishing is assumed to have occurred. For example, the Victory 101 is a new vessel that only started fishing in September. The number of months fishing is 5. We can see that log sheets have been provided for 5 months, so the coverage of log sheet data for this vessel is 5 out of 5, or 100%. To obtain an overall coverage of the processed log sheet data, we divide the sum of the logs by the sum of fishing. In our example, the overall coverage of log sheet data is 91.3%. Unloadings data. Generally, unloadings data are used to determine annual catch estimates, but not coverage. Log sheet trips reconciled with unloadings can provide an indication of activity. The value obtained to determine coverage can be trips or catch. Toughman Data Quality Report number 2 provides a reconciliation of activity log, log sheet, unloadings and port sampling data. This example shows an example of a one-page of this report, with each line representing chronologically ordered trips for the selected vessel over a calendar year. The columns show the different data types. This report is used to reconcile the trips and catches for different data types. Missing log sheets and missing unloadings will be denoted by a gap in the line. If unloadings and log sheet data are considered to be reasonably complete, then this report can also be used to provide a value used to determine coverage. In our example, there are 22 log sheet trips, but only 20 unloadings. Each unloading is matched with a vessel trip. This suggests that the actual number of trips undertaken by the vessel is 22, and an estimate of coverage of unloadings data for this vessel could therefore be described as 20 divided by 22, or 91%. This final table summarizes the types of data that can be used to determine coverage, ranks them, and highlights specific difficulties with each. Pause this video now if you wish to read the table thoroughly. That concludes this lesson.